170 days of sideways. You might be out there like, this is too much, dude. Last cycle wasn't like this. I don't remember waiting this long for the bull market last cycle. You might have those thoughts, but you might be very surprised with the data that we're about to go over in this video. So we're definitely going to do some short-term technical analysis, the next short-term price move for Bitcoin as we still just sit here waiting for it to even happen. We're going to look at that. But I want to zoom out and talk about what's happening here on the weekly. Look at that sideways on the weekly. We're going to zoom out and look at previous cycles. So hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's jump into the video. I want to start with something because this plays into it. I saw this post from Jesse Olsen over here on X. I don't know if you saw me post this the other day. I was just basically being like $60,000 like every month since March, okay? Jesse over here took it a step further. $59,000 Bitcoin since March 2021. I just saw this and I was like, wait a second. So I went over to the weekly chart and I went back to where he's talking about, and March is back here, March 2021, back here. And if you just think about this, this is where we're going to start this video, and then we're going to dig into just these long-term consolidation phases next. But March 2021, this is a really solid data point actually, and I actually posted that. This data point might actually be a good thing. Let me explain why. March 2021, right? Like all-time high area, bull market area, things are going crazy. Years later, a whole cycle later, we're still sitting here. And it does come off like, man, this is just, what is going on? Just sideways on the macro? But then I was like, all right, is it normal, right? Here's Bitcoin halving in yellow. Here's this purple line. The purple line is really kind of taken from the Bitcoin dominance chart. It's when dominance starts falling for Bitcoin. It's like altcoin season beginning. Historically, it's right around here. We're not there yet, right? And here it is last cycle. You can see the bull cycle taking off. But check this out. March 2021, same price right now, basically. But look at this. Here's the bull market top of 2017. And then if we just go right over to last cycle, the beginning of the bull, look at that. Jesse Olsen could essentially have, back in 2020 of November, been like, on this chart, $19,000 since December 2017. You take this another step further, and you can go to the cycle before that. You can go to this all-time high around $1,200, and then you go all the way years later to right around now of the cycle, and you could be like, Bitcoin. In 2017, you could put Bitcoin, $1,300 since, or $1,100, $1,200 since 2013. It's almost like every cycle, this is exactly what happens. And on the macro, it is exactly what happens. So from just even a zoomed out, using like 6 very simple data points, where we are right now is normal, number one. But then I was just like, I was looking at the consolidation of Bitcoin. It's very, very well illustrated on the daily, the frustration of it. 170 days, like choppy, up and then down. People think we're breaking out and then we're breaking down. It's been crazy. But if you go to the weekly, check this out. I was really curious. I did this last night because I was like, man, this really does feel just like crazy, this sideways. And it really does feel like it's never been like this. And I had to just go back on a simple chart. And very quickly, I just saw this area right here, right? Even right before the COVID swing low. And immediately I'm just like, man, this is like 2019. Look at this. It's just lower lows and lower highs. And right now we're getting lower lows and lower highs. It's not even as extreme. And then I measured it. I measured the move. And basically from this swing high to right when Bitcoin finally made a move to the upside, it was kind of breaking out, and then COVID happened. But right to that area right here, 189 days, right? We've acknowledged on the daily chart right now, Bitcoin is like 170 days into this lower low, lower high, consolidation, sideways, annoying. And then back here in this move, it was around 189 days. And then we go to the cycle before that, and this is even closer to halving. You can check this out, this whole area, right? Not the breakout area. There's the breakout, but just the consolidation. Different, a little bit different of a setup, not so much the same, but even still kind of this like ascending triangle almost, or even just a symmetrical triangle. But check it out. Look at the amount of time that Bitcoin from the swing high before breakout was consolidating. 161 days consolidating, basically, right? Maybe 154 days. So there's the cycle before that, kind of this consolidation. And so when we zoom out on the chart, it's kind of like the consolidation we're in. Not only is it normal, but I would even say it is, out of all of these cycles, it makes the most sense. And the reason I say that is because we have all these other things that have happened, right? Bitcoin, for instance, broke the bull market doors, that green rectangle, before the Bitcoin halving. This has never happened before. That's a key macro bullish indicator. Bitcoin has had to cool down now. And that's what it's doing for, or like, it's like been a half a year now. And then we go to the RSI, and I wanted to point this out to you. If you look at this moment, last cycle, this consolidation moment that we're kind of looking at, right? Just like, oh, it's so frustrating. And then it's starting to break out, and then COVID comes into play. During that consolidation, and I think this is really notable because, yeah, it's a little bit of a different area in terms of the timeline, right? This is happening before Bitcoin halving. Right now, it's starting before, but going through it, right? So a little bit different on the from a cycle perspective, very close, but from an indicator perspective, check this out. Look at the stock RSI back then during this consolidation. You see that stock RSI just really oversold for quite some time during all of that, and then the breakout. I think one of the probably best indicators right now in Bitcoin is this stock RSI. It has been very much cooled down since all the way back here in April. And we're going into fall now, right? So it's been oversold all of this time. And last time it was oversold all that time, we know what happened. It escaped that area. And oftentimes that is what happens. It escapes that area. The time to really start being concerned is when any RSI, stock RSI, this is a quicker moving momentum oscillator. I don't think it's as reliable as the RSI, the slower moving momentum oscillator. But when we start getting in overbought territory for a while, you start anticipating what? You start anticipating some type of continued consolidation, right? So on this weekly chart, just to give you an idea, overbought, and then what happened? It was, on this chart, just weeks of consolidation right here. Now, we're oversold. And I think that is a very, very good thing to pay attention to. The other thing is, as I've mentioned often, is where the RSI is right now, the slower moving momentum oscillator. We are in territory that is just such a good launch pad for a parabolic bull run, for a parabolic bull cycle. Here's where Bitcoin was last cycle on this RSI, around 54. We're even lower than that. And that's right before Bitcoin and crypto took off. Now let's dig into the charts and kind of talk about the daily, because I do want to talk about some price, short-term price action targets, all that good stuff. This is Bitcoin on the daily chart. Put aside the frustration of the consolidation. Anything can happen. I have this yellow line on the chart from a post I did on X the other day, but this is one of the scenarios. It's Bitcoin in a pattern, and we have an upper trend line. We have a lower trend line. So the upper trend line's obviously in play. It's around $68,000 to $69,000. And then the lower trend line's in play. And right now that's around $52,000 or so. They're just both in play. What I wanted to point out on this chart specifically, on the daily, is yes, we have the RSI. It's been oversold. It's bounced out of oversold. It's been consolidating right now. What we want to see happen is continuation to the upside. I'm going to, in a minute, talk about if this actually starts falling, what to look for. But before I do that, what I really want to point out on the daily chart is the stock RSI, the quicker moving momentum oscillator. Right here, it is entering oversold. So for this fast moving oscillator, this is one of the best things if we want to see Bitcoin break to the upside, it is very good to see Bitcoin falling into oversold now on this chart. We often know when Bitcoin is kind of oversold on a stock RSI, it can very quickly just bounce out of that area, right? So just a good example is this. The last time it happened, it was putting in the swing low. The reason I'm bringing that up is because all of that is the not fun part. It's getting here. It's getting into the oversold on any RSI. That's just the not fun part. But once you rip the Band-Aid off and you're here, then we start looking and we start saying we're getting close. Now, this does not mean because we've entered oversold, we're bouncing now. Because as the chart actually illustrates really well, it's falling into oversold here, right? And look, 3 or 4 days was about to get bad to finally put in the stock RSI bottom. But this is my point. We're getting very close to, I think, a bottom here. It could be here. Maybe we just go sideways and this consolidates sideways, and then we're making a move to the upside. Maybe we go lower. And the reason I want to bring up that lower point, and then we'll talk about upside, is because if Bitcoin does go lower, and suppose Bitcoin falls in a very similar fashion to back here, and actually even puts in a daily candle close lower than these candles, so it's a true lower low. If we get a move like that into the lower 50s, what's the RSI doing? There is a very strong possibility the RSI puts in a higher low, and that could be very bullish, meaning bullish divergence, right? So lower low on price chart, higher low on RSI, and then we're bouncing. It's almost identical to what happened in the last RSI swing low back here. It put in, a lower low on price, higher low on momentum oscillator, and then we had a powerful bounce all the way up towards 70,000, 69, 70,000. So on the short term, you can see how downside is just very realistically in play, but it could play into the bullish momentum that Bitcoin is looking for on these RSIs. And this is just part of the game, everybody. This is part of why I track these charts, is to anticipate these moves so that when they happen, it's kind of like, okay, this is normal. And if this move happened, it is normal in the same way that this was normal, and this was normal, and this was normal, and this was normal, and this was normal. It's all a matter of structure until we finally get a breakout of the structure, whether it's to the downside or eventually to the upside. And that's what I'm tracking. Now, to the upside, none of that has to happen. Bitcoin could have a great weekend, or it could just have a sideways weekend and then a great start to the week. But again, if it's going to have a good start to the week, just look at all the resistance that is right here in play. The 20-day moving average is right around 60,000. It's like $1,000 away from where Bitcoin is. The 50-day is around 62,000. And then we have the 200 days around 63,000, 64,000. Then we have this Fibonacci that is still here that Bitcoin has to contend with, confluent really with the 20-day. And you can see the swing high to swing low. It's that green area that Bitcoin has to break. It's a lower high area. And then with that is the short-term holder cost basis indicator that we've been talking about. That's right there. So much resistance, especially around $63,000. That's not a big move for Bitcoin. So going into the rest of this weekend, into the beginning of the week, can Bitcoin put in an 8% move to test the upper range of resistance? That's what I'll be watching for. And if it does, and if it breaks, we could be in for a potential powerful breakout for Bitcoin. Because eventually this consolidation is going to end one way or the other, to the upside or to the downside. So we'll see on this chart if Bitcoin bulls can flip this to the upside to start testing upper trend line, or if we're going to get a fall to the downside. None of us know. I'm just tracking these charts with you, everybody, so we can just prepare for it, watch for it, and, take it one day at a time. So these are my thoughts today, this Saturday. Hope you're having a good weekend as Bitcoin really does nothing. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you next video. God bless.